The writer of the story, that this Kenneth Anderson, though he was he was in the British Army, Indian British Army, because that time the Britishers were ruling over India. But he was a hunter also. He would go on hunting spree. But but sometimes, however you hunt for the animals, but sometimes, after all, we are all humans. We are touched. We are touched by the innocence and the emotions of the animals. Animals also express their emotions. Here in the story that you are going to read, definitely it was a hunting spree only. But the animal that had been caught and that had been kept as a pet. So the owners, of course, the author and his wife, how they had started considering that animal as a part of their family. Have you ever seen the people having pets like dogs?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you noticed that how they consider that dog as their family?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it becomes their family. They eat, the dog is very much sitting next to them. Whatever they eat, they feed the dog also.
Ma'am, I have also a pet.
Oh, you have a pet, wonderful. Which pet do you have?
Dog.
Dog, wow. What is his name?
Ma'am, Bruno.
Bruno. Good, very good. Bruno is quite a common name for the pets, no? Yes, so that's great. And Bruno is how old?
Oh, 1, 2 years old only.
Oh, 1, 2 years old only. But 2 years old animal also becomes quite big in size, isn't it? Is
Yes.
that which breed and more?
I don't know. Papa knows that.
Papa knows. You must be knowing, no? You should find out, okay? Which color?
Brown.
Brown. Okay. Does it have hair?
Yes, ma'am.
It has hair? Okay. Good. And is it tall or the short one?
Short one.
Short one. Okay. Now I don't know which breed. You should find out and you will tell me in the next class, okay? Right? The dogs are very lovable.
Okay,
Isn't
ma'am.
it? Do you have a good bonding with him?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you just give an example?
Ma'am, whenever ma'am, like I was going to my school,
Uh-huh.
then after 6 or 7 hours after later, then I will come to my school, come from my school to house.
Uh-huh.
He's like jump on me and
Ah,
licking me.
yes, 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 yes. Yes. So that's how he expresses his love for you, that he was missing you, isn't it? He would pounce on you, he would lick your hands, he would lick your face, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So this is the beautiful bonding. Anyway, so let's start with the bond of love. It is very easy for you to understand the whole lesson because you yourself are keeping a beautiful pet at home. So you can easily place yourself as the writer's wife, whom the writer had given a pet, but the kind of pet that you have, Anmol, that is a very usual, common kind of pet. But the pet that the writer's wife has been given, it's an unusual kind. It's unique, it's different. So we think that the experience must be different. But after listening to your one small story regarding your bonding between you and your pet, I think that it's not different. The same situation, the same bonding, the same kind of activities. The author's wife also is indulged in, whenever she plays, whenever she is with her pet. Now here, what is very important is to understand the emotions. You will take no time to understand the emotions, right? So let us start here. Sloth bears inhabit forested areas. The author has started the lesson with sloth bears only. Sloth bears are called sloth. Sloth meaning slow moving, lazy, right? Now these black bear, the picture which is given in the book, they are called sloth bear. There are other bears also like polar bears, the brown bears, but they are not called sloth bear. They are also huge in size, but this species of bears in particular is quite huge, heavy, right? So they move slowly. They are lazy. That's why they are called sloth bear. So sloth bears inhabit forested areas, including the tropical rainforests of India and grasslands at lower elevations. Sloth bears inhabit forested areas, meaning in the forest, there live sloth bears. These forests in tropical rainforests, in grasslands at the lower heights, in all these places, the sloth bears, they live. Sloth bears have very shaggy hair and long muzzles. Now here is given the description of the physical appearance of sloth bear. They have very shaggy hair. Shaggy meaning long, dirty, unkempt. Unkempt meaning uncombed, which are not tended properly. So these sloth bears, they have long and shabby, unkempt hair and long muzzles. Now, what is muzzle? Here you look at the picture. This part of the face of the bear, it is called muzzle, which includes nose and mouth. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And then you just observe carefully that the nose is long. The nose is long. And this nose, this muzzle is very helpful to this sloth bear when it is searching its food. Let us find out how it is helpful. Using their claws to dig, they can then use their lips to form a tube which can go deep into the ground or into hard to reach areas like dead trees for their food. Using their claws to dig. They use their claws. Claws, you know,
Yes, ma'am.
the nails, the long nails, right? They use their claws to dig the land. And once they dig the earth, once they dig the soil of the land, then they use their lips, including this nose, deep into the ground. They insert that is making a kind of tube. And with the help of that tube that they make, they try to search the food to the depth of the ground. Deep into the ground, they try to search the food. And where do they search? Into hard to reach areas, the areas which are difficult otherwise to reach. They are able to reach the difficult point of the depth of the trees with the help of their muscles and the lips. And then they go, they search their foods, they search their food where? Deep down into the earth, deep down into the earth, where are the roots of the dead trees? Why? Because the dead trees, the trees are killed, the dead trees are the decayed trees, right, on which the termites are feeding. Termites, do you know?
No, ma'am.
Okay, termite कहते हैं दीमक को. दीमक तो पता होगा आपको.
Yes, yes.
दीमक wood पर आती है ना. दीमक is an insect which
Yes.
is very harmful to the wood, which is very infectious, right? And it spreads very fast. So why it searches deep into the earth, in particular the dead trees, because it knows that the on dead trees are living termites. It will find termites, and termites is the main food of these sloth bear. So they always look for such areas where there are dead trees. And then they try to go deep, they try to dig deep into the earth to get termites for their food. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
You can hear them suck up their food from several feet away. Once they explore, when they are sure that that the food is available, then they try to suck that food through the lip kind, through the tube kind of lips, right? And when they suck the food, the sound can be heard. This is what you must have noticed, even the dogs, when they eat or drink. Do you hear the sound?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So the animals, when they eat and drink, the sound can be heard. Same is the case with the sloth bear, right? Now here is the story of sloth bear that had been kept as a pet. Yes, Abhinav has joined. Right. Good. Okay. I will begin with Bruno, my wife's pet sloth bear. I got him for her by accident. The writer here shares this anecdote to express a beautiful bonding between the humans and the wild animals. Otherwise, we think that yes, there is a bonding of love between the humans and the animals, but between humans and the wild animals, we never thought. But here the writer brings it here. So I'll begin with Bruno. So Anmol, when you read Bruno, you must be thinking of your own Bruno, right? Okay. So he says that I begin with Bruno. Bruno is writer's wife's pet sloth bear. Anmol, yesterday you were not there, but we were discussing the pets, the wild animals as pets. And then 1 or 2 videos I had shown to Anmol, right? Where you will be surprised to know that even tigers and lions, the crocodiles, alligators, they are also kept as pets. Of course, you must have heard and you must have seen somewhere in the videos, dolphins are kept as pets. Do you know that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, in the countries like, you know that in the countries like Australia and New Zealand, the people, they have oceanariums. Oceanariums are the part of the ocean, right, which is cordoned off, and then the dolphins are kept there. Some people keep them personally as their pets, and some people keep them as entertainment, as the source of entertainment. And then the visitors visit those oceanariums to get entertained by various tricks of dolphins. Anyway, dolphin is not a wild animal, but I'm just giving you an example, right? Similarly, I shared with Anmol yesterday, Abhinav, that in Bangkok, there is a tiger temple. So you must see yesterday's video, yesterday's lesson, and then you will come across one such link is there, which will take you to the tiger temple of Bangkok, where the tigers are so friendly with the people. The people go, the people pamper them, they pat them, they get the snapshots with them, right? Okay, so the writer says, I got him for her by accident. The writer had never planned, he had never thought that he would gift his wife a sloth bear as a pet. He never thought it, but it had been by chance it was by an accident that he came across this sloth bear, and then he thought to give it to his wife because he thought that his wife would look after the sloth bear. 2 years ago, we were passing through the sugarcane fields near Mysore. People were driving away the wild pigs from the fields by shooting at them. Some were shot and some escaped. The writer here shares the anecdote that when he wrote this story, that 2 years before writing the story, when he was passing through the sugarcane fields in Mysore, he had come across the people, those who were trying to shoo away the wild pigs. Why? To protect their fields. Because if the wild pigs are not shooed away, then they would destroy, then they would harm their crops. So they were shooting at the wild pigs to shoo them away. Some of the pigs, they were shot, they were killed, but some, they had fled. They had escaped. We thought that everything was over when suddenly a black sloth bear came out panting in the hot sun. The writer and his other teammates, they thought that it was over. Some pigs had been killed and others, they had fled. But suddenly, the writer had noticed a black sloth bear that came out of the sugarcane fields, that was panting, becoming breathless, short of breath, right? The black sloth bear coming out of the sugarcane fields was breathless. Must be panting because he might have run to escape after the gunshots. Maybe this black sloth bear had also been shot by the hunters in the hot sun. Now I will not shoot a sloth bear wantonly, but unfortunately for the poor beast, one of my companions did not feel that way about it and promptly shot the bear on the spot. The writer said that he decided that he was not going to shoot, he was not going to kill sloth bear for no reason. There was no reason. Why should he kill him? But unfortunately, one of his companions, one of his teammates, he had shot this poor animal, beast's animal. He had shot this poor animal because he never felt that there is no need to kill this animal. And promptly, instantly, immediately, he shot the bear. He shot the bear dead on the spot. He shot the bear on the spot. The black sloth bear was killed and fell down on the spot and died. As we watched the fallen animal, we were surprised to see that the black fur on its back moved and left the prostrate body. They had seen the black sloth bear falling, collapsing, but that animal had collapsed because that was shot dead. But soon they were surprised to notice, to find that there was the movement. There was still the movement. What was this movement? There was the movement of black fur. There was the movement of the bear. And that very bear, that black fur, it had left the prostrate body. Prostrate body, prostrate is the position when you are lying with your face with your face downwards. Is that clear? और simple भाषा में अगर हम कहें तो उल्टे लेटना. Here is the prostrate body of the animal. I hope it is clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So this black fur had been moving away from the prostrate body. Now, what is that prostrate body? that prostrate body was, children, the big sloth bear that had been shot dead by the writer's companion. Then what is this black fur that had left the prostrate bear, that had fallen? This black fur is another bear. How come this? Here, then we saw it was a baby bear that had been riding on its mother's back when the sudden shot had killed her. I hope you understand. The big sloth bear that had fallen, that was shot dead, was the mother bear. And this black fur that had left the prostrate mother, that was the baby sloth bear. This baby sloth bear was clinging on his mother's back. He was riding on his mother's back, but the mother was shot dead. So she collapsed and the baby was saved. So the baby sloth bear got up, left the prostrate body of the mother. The little creature ran around its prostrate parent, making a pitiful noise. What is this pitiful noise? Definitely, the baby bear must be crying. The baby bear was running around. The prostrate parent was running around the mother bear that was lying down dead over there, and was making a pitiful noise because it was not only running, but it was crying bitterly. Have you ever noticed? Now you see that what it is. The animals, they also have their emotions and the feelings, whether pet animal or wild animal, they all have emotions. Have you ever noticed that when any bird dies, for example, many a times it happens, that आपके जो घर के बाहर ये इलेक्ट्रिक वायर्स होती हैं बड़े वाले, है ना? Electric wires पे often you must have seen suddenly lot many crows, they gather and they keep on crowing. And when it happens, when one particular crow is killed or dies, falls or dies or whatever, all these gather in a flock and they keep on flying around their dead counterpart and they keep on crowing. The reason, they are expressing their emotions, they are feeling sad, they are crying, right? So this baby bear was crying because he knows that his mother is no more. He knows that he has lost his mother. He knows that there is something wrong with his mother. Now you see that these animals cannot speak, but they also have their senses. They also have their emotions. They also have their feelings. And they can express also. Is that clear? Yes, Anmol, is there any time you felt that you feel that your pet, your Bruno, is also expressing his feelings or emotions?
Yet not now.
Not now. But yes, it happens. You will notice that something, if there is something serious at home, like your parents are anxious, you all are anxious, you will find your pet also to be serious.
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it? So they are, I mean, that they are so sensitive and so understanding that they know everything. They become very conscious and they understand each and everything. Only the thing is that they cannot speak, right? Okay. I ran up to it to attempt a capture. The writer, the moment the writer had seen the little creature running around his mother that was dead, his heart might have definitely melted. And he ran in order to capture, in order to catch the baby sloth bear. It scooted into the sugarcane field. The baby sloth bear ran into the sugarcane field. Following it with my companions, I was at last able to grab it by the scruff of its neck while it snapped and tried to scratch me with its long hooked claws. Anyway, the writer did not give up. He kept on chasing the baby bear with his companions, and at last he was able to grab, he was able to hold, he was able to catch the baby bear by the scruff. Scruff is by the back of its neck. By the back of its neck, he could easily catch the baby sloth bear. However, the bear had been snapping, biting. He had tried to bite the writer. He had tried to scratch him with his long, hooked, sharp, hooked meaning sharp. With his long and sharp claws, he was trying to scratch and bite him. The reason was to escape, for his own defense, for his own protection. I hope it is clear.
Yes, ma'am.
We put it in one of the gunny bags we had brought, and when I got back to Bangalore, I duly presented it to my wife. They put this baby sloth bear in a gunny bag, in a bag, and they took him to Bangalore. And when the writer reached Bangalore, he gifted it to his wife. She was delighted. She was extremely happy. She at once put a colored ribbon around its neck, and after discovering the cub was a boy, she christened it Bruno. Instantly, she put a colored ribbon around its neck. She took no time doing it. What does it show? That shows the writer's wife's motherly touch, motherly feeling for the baby bear. And this clearly suggests that the baby bear has landed into the right hands. And then when she learned that this was a male baby bear, then she named. She named the dog as, she named the bear as Bruno, right? Bruno soon took to drinking milk from a bottle. Now Bruno started living there. Bruno has adopted whatever the new lifestyle has been given to him. However, Bruno was in jungle, Bruno was never familiar with all these things which he was being offered. But by now he is adapting himself very well to the new environment and to the new activities. He started drinking milk from a bottle. It was but a step further. And within a very few days, he started eating and drinking everything else. It was just the beginning, not only drinking milk from a bottle. Gradually, he started doing everything. He would eat and drink anything that was offered to him. And everything is the right word, for he ate porridge. Everything, the writer said, he ate everything, meaning whatever he was offered, he would eat this. And there is an unending list of the items that were offered to him. What was offered to him? He ate porridge made from any ingredients. He ate vegetables, fruit, nuts, meat, especially pork. Pork is the meat of pig, curry, and rice, regardless of condiments and chilies, condiments, spices, and chilies, bread, egg, chocolate, sweets, pudding, ice cream, etc., etc. I think this is the diet of a human being that baby sloth bear is enjoying. So definitely he is into the right hands, and definitely he would be growing healthily. As for drink, these were the items of the food. Now for drinks, he would drink milk, tea, coffee, lime juice, aerated water. Aerated water is like lemon water, soda water, etc., etc. Anything liquid, buttermilk, beer. Buttermilk, do you know what is buttermilk?
Yes, ma'am.
क्या होता है buttermilk?
Charge.
Charge, right. That we call lassi also, right? Okay. So buttermilk, beer, alcoholic liquor, and in fact, anything liquid. Anything in liquid, even alcohol was offered to him, he would drink that too. It all went down with relish. It all went down with relish, meaning Bruno would relish everything that was offered to him. Bruno would enjoy eating and drinking whatever was offered to him, right?
Ma'am,
The beer, yes. Any problem, Tilia?
and what is the meaning of porridge?
Porridge. Porridge is a kind of meal. Just as for example, you know that small children, they are given the porridge in the form of saralek,
Yes, ma'am.
right? And like the children, young children, they are given, the mothers make a porridge with suji and milk, right? So when suji kheer is made for a small child, it's porridge only. All right?
No. Okay, ma'am.
Yes, dalia we make for the young children with mixing it with milk. That is also a kind of porridge, right? So it's a meal basically for the young children. Yes, the bear became very attached to our two Alsatian dogs and to all the children of the tenants living in our bungalow. Now, Bruno had very well adapted himself to the new environment he was given in Mysore, in Bangalore, by the writer's wife. He was very comfortable with everyone. He had become very close. He had established a beautiful friendship with the two Alsatian dogs also. Alsatian is a breed of the dogs. And he was also friendly with the children of the tenants who were living in their bungalow. He was left quite free in his younger days and spent his time in playing, running into the kitchen, and going to sleep in our beds. When he was young, in the initial days, Bruno was given complete freedom. He would run around, he would spend his time in playing, running around. There was no restriction on him. He would, in fact, barge into the kitchen also. He would sleep with the writer and his wife in their beds also. One day, an accident befell him. But one day, what happened? He met an accident. Now, what kind of accident is this? I put down poison to kill the rats and mice that had got into my library. The writer has put poison, that is barium carbonate, in the library to scare or to kill the rats and mice. This is what practiced generally by the people at home, right? So the writer also did the same. Bruno entered the library as he often did, and he ate some of the poison. Bruno, because Bruno had full freedom to go anywhere. So at times he would go to the library also. So once when he went to the library, he found this poison, he found this barium carbonate lying there. Of course, he is an animal, he might not be knowing what it is. He just swallowed that. He ate some of this. Paralysis sent in to the extent that he could not stand on his feet. Bruno, he had consumed that poison and he had got a stroke of paralysis. He got a stroke of paralysis. He could not stand on his feet. Paralysis is when your limbs, they become numb. Limbs meaning हाथ पैर आपके numb हो जाते हैं, right? When the limbs become numb, you cannot move them. So he could not stand on his feet because he had got a paralysis stroke. But he dragged himself on his stumps to my wife. Somehow he tried to drag himself on his back. Stump is actually the hips, the back, right? He dragged himself on his hips, on his back, on his stumps, however he found it difficult. And then he struggled to reach his wife. And when she observed this kind of change in Bruno's behavior, she immediately called for the author. I guessed what had happened. The writer could make out what had happened. Off I rushed in the car to the vet's residence. The writer took no time. He did not delay. He immediately took Bruno in his car and went to the vet's residence. Vet is a veterinary doctor. Veterinary doctor is the doctor of animals and birds. A veterinary doctor gives treatment to the animals and birds. So he went to a vet's residence, a case of poisoning, tame beer, barium carbonate, what to do? Doctor, when they reached the doctor's residence, he said, case of poisoning. Is this a case of poisoning that your animal has consumed poison? Aren't you tame beer? Aren't you taming? Aren't you taking care of your beer? Barium carbonate, what to do? Meaning, how did the animal consume poison, barium carbonate? I hope it is clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Out came his medical books and a feverish reference to index began. He started scrawling in his book. He started exploring in his medical books to find out if an animal has a paralysis stroke, what treatment is to be given. And a feverish reference to index began. A feverish reference, very seriously, he started studying. He had started exploring in the index on which page, in which context to find the treatment, what should be the line of action by a vet for an animal if he has the stroke of paralysis. What poison did you say, sir? He asked the author, what poison did you say he had consumed? Barium carbonate. Ah, yes, the barium salts. Ah, barium carbonate. You see that he is repeating, the doctor is repeating barium carbonate. What does it suggest? It suggests that the doctor is also worried. Symptoms, paralysis. Perhaps this is the first kind of such case that this vet has come across. That's why he is reading in the book that barium carbonate can cause what? Paralysis. What are the symptoms of paralysis? What is the treatment of paralysis? Which injections have to be given? Just a minute, sir. I'll bring my syringe and the medicine. At last he found out which medicine is to be injected into his body, into Bruno's body, to let him recover from his paralysis. So he told the author that he has found out and let him bring his syringe. Syringe, you know very well, जो injection देने के लिए use करते हैं.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? That has a long needle which is pierced into your skin to inject the medicine. Right? So he said, I'll bring my syringe and the medicine. A dash back to the car. Bruno still floundering about on his stumps, but clearly weakening rapidly. Some vomiting, heavy breathing, with heaving flanks and gaping mouth. A dash back to the car. After getting the injection, immediately he was packed in the car. But Bruno in the car was still floundering about on his stumps. Right? Attached back to the car, Bruno still floundering about on his stumps. Sorry, attached back to the car. The writer went to the car to find Bruno. Bruno was still floundering. He was still struggling to move. He was unable to move. Of course, it is difficult for him to move when he has become paralytic, when he has got the stroke of paralysis. So he was trying to move on his stumps, on his back, but clearly weakening rapidly. But he was becoming too weak. It was difficult for him to move. Some vomiting. He was vomiting, heavy breathing. He was becoming breathless with heaving flanks. Heaving is breathless. He was becoming breathless. He was panting. So you know what happens when you are breathless? Then you take deep breaths and you hear the sound, right? So he had been breathing noisily because he had been panting. Just as for example, okay, let me explain to you. Just as for example, you came running for long, right? When you are running, don't you become breathless? Right? You become breathless and you start taking deep breaths. लंबी सांस लेते हैं ना, आप थक जाते हैं, right? आप लंबी सांस लेते हैं, आवाज आती है, right? So that is heaving flanks and gaping mouth, because he had become very weak. The mouth was wide open because he had become very weak. Hold him, everybody. The doctor told that please hold the animal. In goes the hypodermic. Bruno squeals. In goes the hypodermic. Hypodermic is that needle of the syringe that inserts in the that goes into the skin and supplies actually the medicine, right? So that needle is hypodermic. In goes the hypodermic, meaning the medicine is injected. Bruno squeals, Bruno cries. 10 cc of the antidote enters his system without a drop being wasted. Now this 10 cc is cubic centimeters. And 10 cc is equal to 1 ml, 1 milliliter. So 1 ml of the antidote. Antidote is the medicine that enters his system, that is injected into his body very carefully, that no medicine is wasted. 10 minutes later, condition unchanged. After giving injection, the doctor waited for 10 minutes for observation, to observe the outcome, the results. But after 10 minutes also, the condition was the same. What? Bruno was still struggling, floundering. Bruno was still panting with heaving flanks. Another 10 cc injected. Another injection with 1 ml medicine was again given. 10 minutes later, breathing less stertorous. But this time, it really worked. Because second time, when the second injection was given, 10 minutes after the second injection, now the breathing was less stertorous. Now he was breathing, but it wasn't noisy. But it wasn't noisy. As noisy as one is snoring. Snoring क्या होता है? Snoring होता है जब आप खराटे लेते हैं, तो आवाज आती है ना, तो उस तरह की कोई आवाज नहीं आ रही थी. That means that he must be feeling comfortable. Bruno can move his arms and legs a little, although he cannot stand yet. Now, the impact, the effect of the medicine that had been injected is that Bruno can move his arms and legs a little bit. However, he cannot stand. 30 minutes later, Bruno gets up and has a great feed. Half an hour later, he tries to get up and he is given the food. He looks at us disdainfully, as much as to say, what's barium carbonate to a big black bear like me? He tries to get up and he looks at them disdainfully. That he has been victimized, as much as to say, what is barium carbonate to a big black? Disdainfully, as if he didn't like it. And he said, what is this barium carbonate to a big black bear like me? What does it matter to me? What is it meant for me? इसके meaning Bruno को barium carbonate से क्या होने वाला है? Bruno is still eating. Anyway, now Bruno is eating and drinking. Another time he found nearly 1 gallon of old engine oil, which I had drained from the sump of the stewed baker and was keeping as a weapon against the inroad of termites. Now that was the first incident. That was the one incident when Bruno had been caught, when Bruno met an accident. And then he was given the instant treatment and he recovered, right? There is another incident that the writer has shared. What is it? He said that once he had been going somewhere, he usually when he goes somewhere, he had his old American car, that is Studebaker. Studebaker is the old American car. In the sump of the Studebaker, sump is the one part of the engine. One part of the engine where extra oil is, engine oil is kept. Right? So he had 1 gallon of old engine oil, which he had drained, which he had gathered from the sump of the Studebaker. And why he was keeping this extra oil in his car? Because while traveling, he just wanted the oil to use to kill termites if they were found on the roads. He promptly drank the lot. And when Bruno found it, Bruno is an animal. Bruno does not know what it is. It is just a liquid. Just like any other liquid, Bruno drank the whole of that oil. But anyway, this time he escaped. He was okay because it had no ill effects whatever. Bruno was safe. Bruno was hale and hearty. Nothing had happened to him because there had been no harmful effects of the engine oil on Bruno. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Any problem till here?
No, ma'am.
Sure?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Abhinav, is everything clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. The rest we shall continue the next time. Take care.
Good evening.
Okay, good evening.